In this video, we are looking at the very famous essay, Civil Disobedience, written by Henry David Thoreau in 1849. Before we talk about the document, let's take a look at the context. From the early 1800s through 1840, the Second Great Awakening had helped light the fuse for many different reform movements through the idea that humanity should focus on making the world a better place. While it is not a specific reform movement, a philosophical and literary movement had also sprung up in this era called Transcendentalism. And our author of Civil Disobedience, Henry David Thoreau, is heavily associated with this movement. Some of its main tenets are that divinity pervades all of nature and humanity, and the individual is capable of improving oneself. He or she just needs to take the initiative and listen to their own inner voice. Transcendentalists had a progressive view on communal living and feminism, and they are a part of the women's suffrage movement. They also run in the anti-slavery abolitionist circles. We also need to understand what is going on outside the Transcendentalist movement, because that is what Thoreau will be reacting toward. President James K. Polk is an ardent supporter of manifest destiny, which is the belief that the expansion of the United States throughout the American continents was both justified and inevitable. Polk is also very pro-slavery and would like to strengthen fugitive slave laws. Also, there were foreign policy events that are important to understand. Texas, which had been an independent republic after a war with Mexico, was applying for admission into the United States. Previous presidents who did not want to stir conflict with Mexico declined, but Polk was for it. However, there was a disagreement with Mexico about where the border should be. Polk also wanted Mexico to sell the United States what would become all of modern-day Southwest, from California to Colorado. These disputes led to the controversial Mexican-American War. Some Americans thought that this war was imperialistic, aggressive, and wrong, which includes our author, Henry David Thoreau. Turning now to the key points of civil disobedience. The essay asks the question, what should an honest and moral person do against a corrupt and tyrannical government? And Thoreau's answer is to follow your conscience and reason. Thoreau will go on to denounce the war and the returning of escaped slaves. Thoreau argued that a just person should not support an unjust government, and that going to jail because of an act of nonviolent resistance was the proper course of action against an unjust government. Moving on to Thoreau's intentions. Thoreau had two main purposes for writing Civil Disobedience. Number one is to call out injustices in the time period, that being slavery and the Mexican-American War. And two is to frame when and how a just person should protest or resist their government. Thoreau's point of view is of an educated transcendentalist author, abolitionist, and a person who is opposed to President Polk's administration. His audience are what he views as fellow just and moral individuals. Getting now into who would agree and disagree with Thoreau. He would find backers who are also against the Mexican-American War, including some in the Whig political party, and also abolitionists. Pro-war and pro-manifest destiny Democrats would disagree with Thoreau. Finally, the legacy of civil disobedience. This essay will have a strong legacy and is still influential today. For AP courses, links can be seen to Gandhi and his protest movement to free India from British colonialism. In American history, there are direct links to MLK and the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movements will come out with many nonviolent protest actions against segregation, including the Montgomery bus boycott, sit-ins, and marches, just to name a few. And these are all building off the legacy of civil disobedience. Well, that does it for this document. If you liked the video, click that like button, subscribe, and share with your friends.